Good evening, everyone. Jeff, it's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you too.
I've
So good to
missed
see you
you.
too.
I have missed you a lot, and
I have as well.
and part of why I'm here tonight is to tell everybody that I'm not going to get to see you this year or any of them, but we'll get there in a moment.
Mm.
Um, Class is in session, and oh my God, if there was ever a case for us doing an episode of Soul School, we all know the premise of the show is that Earth is soul school, and it's where we come to learn our lessons well. And unfortunately, the tests always precede the lessons. Um, I have, you and Bill both know I stay in very close touch, and you and I are in touch really frequently. Which has been a saving grace in my life, my dear, dear, sweet star brother. Uh, but everybody knows, or most everybody knows, I guess, by now that my mom passed away on June 12th of this year. And, and then, of course, I have to mention that I will be taking no questions and nothing having to do with any circumstances going on at the farmhouse. I am completely removed from it. I am completely removed from all negative energy. I am completely removed from anything that can harm me emotionally or spiritually or in any other way. I have insulated and I have isolated. And it's not just because of my grief about losing our dear, precious mother. Um, it's not. It's more. So in terms of the farmhouse, please believe me, I have bigger fish to fry. And let me tell you what's for dinner. Um, we did a beautiful ceremony and memorial service for Mom a few weeks after she passed. And once we sent everyone on their way back home, whether it be to Florida or wherever they came from, to attend the event. Uh, we slept, Chris and I, my sister Christine, my savior. She's unbelievable. My earth angel. We slept the next day, all day long. Like neither one of us moved. Got up occasionally to let the dogs out for a few minutes, and that was it. That was it. We fed them in the morning, we fed them at night, we let them out and run around for a few minutes, and then right back to bed because both of us were exhausted beyond measure. Um, and then a couple of days later, my sister Christine said to me, "Go get changed and get in the car. I'm taking you to the emergency room. It is time that we deal with this horrendous lump in your breast." And it had been there, and the tumor had ruptured about a month before Mom died. And I couldn't do anything about it except drop to the floor in pain I had never felt in my life. Um, at that point, I was no longer afraid of needing to have a biopsy because I knew that nothing that they did to me could possibly hurt as much as that did. It was a pretty terrible experience, and I slapped an ice pack on it, and I ate 800 milligrams of Motrin, and then I went into Mom's room and I lifted her up and got her in the shower and took care of her, and we took care of her right till the end. Um, and she passed away, surrounded by her loved ones, surrounded. And we would want that for anyone, anyone. And she's out of pain now, and it's over. And I'm grateful. I'm also grateful for my many wonderful, dear friends, those that I count among my nearest and dearest. Uh, so grateful. But I did not expect the news that I got because I was quite certain that what had set up in my breast was a cyst. Um, It would blow up, it would shrink down, it would blow up. It was not acting like the dreaded C word. It wasn't. And, so I figured that this was going to be, a very uncomfortable, plunging of a needle. Thank you, sweetheart. And draining of fluid. I really did think, that that's what I would be dealing with. Casey, I love you. I was just chatting with her. I love, my Baldwin family. They're such an incredible support system. Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. Uh, well, they did blood panel, and it came back perfect, and they couldn't find any markers for anything in my blood, and so they ran it again because they didn't believe the results. And then they put me through a CAT scan and, or CT scan, whatever they call it. I prefer CAT, but then again, we all know I am a childless cat and dog lady. And that's all I'll say about that. Don't tell the cat or the dogs that I'm not their mother. Please don't tell them that. So they came in, the doctor came in, and then she came in with like 6 other doctors to examine me. And they were very concerned. And before I even left the Villa Rica Hospital emergency room, I received a call from a very well-known breast surgeon here in Georgia, who happened to have done aftercare for my mother and had also helped one of my other sisters with something that turned out to be nothing. But still, you got to go, you got to check. Somebody probably should have told me that 3 years ago when this thing showed up. I love you, sweetheart. And so I went and I met the doctor and I asked him a number of questions. Interestingly, he lived in Rhode Island for a number of years. He got his medical degree from Brown University in Providence, and then he did his internship at Women and Infants Hospital, also in Providence. So we had plenty to talk about. And he was lovely and he was helpful. And when I had to endure a very invasive, extensive biopsy, I didn't feel anything. I just left 3D completely, watched from above. I felt nothing. He numbed me up very, very well. And about 10 incisions and puncture wounds later, I was allowed to go home. And 2 days later, every single wound was healed completely, as though it never even happened. So kind of amazing. And then I went to the oncologist, and that's when she told me that I have cancer. And I said, well, I know I'm, technically supposed to believe you, but I feel as strong as I ever have in my life. I've just gone through the worst ordeal of my life. And here I am on the other side of it. And how can this even be? And she said, well, I don't want you to, freak out or I don't remember exactly what she said, but that was the gist of it. And I said, why would I? I'm the luckiest woman on the planet. I live in the greatest country in the world with the best medical technology, the best research, the best doctors, the best equipment, the best of everything. And it doesn't matter if I'm at Dana-Farber in Boston, or I'm at MD Anderson, or I'm at the Mayo Clinic, or I'm at Vanderbilt, or I'm at the Breast Health Center in Carrollton, Georgia. It doesn't matter, because all of you talk to each other. And if you need help, you reach out to each other. And I am being treated by a team of doctors, and we haven't even come up with a full diagnosis yet, and I looked at her and I said, you know what would be a tragedy? If I was huddled in the corner of a hovel beneath a burqa in Afghanistan, hiding my shame, afraid to tell anyone, with no resources, no food, no money, no clinic, no hospital, and not even able to leave my home without a Taliban escort. Now, that would be tragic. And what is tragic is that women, just like me, are going through this there. That's what's tragic. And that's why I need to stay in the world so that I can, to the extent that I am able, change that and help heal our wounded world. I don't want to exit stage right or stage left prematurely. I don't. 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, I was so depressed and so sad, so grief-stricken, so completely bereft that I didn't care if I lived or died. I don't feel that way anymore.
Mm.
And my mother is strong. She's a strong presence, and she's helping me. And so many people have reached out to help me. And I've only told a few people, really, a couple of dozen people are my closest, my nearest and dearest people that have known about this. But I knew right from the inception, Jeff, and I shared this with you because you were one of the first calls I made. I told you, what would be the point of going through this kind of pain, going through this kind of ordeal without claiming it as an opportunity to help others who may well be suffering, maybe from an entirely different thing, but suffering nonetheless,
Yeah.
in quiet desperation, people who feel alone in this world. And they need to know that they're not, and that when we band together, we are the light workers of the world.
Mm.
And we heal ourselves and we heal each other. And don't think I didn't have a few discussions with the galactic family about this, because I've been healed before. What some would say miraculously healed from bizarre things that just poof went away. And so I guess it was a little presumptuous of me to just figure that they would do it again. And every time that I've reached out and said, I could use a little help down here, I'm having an issue, I keep getting the exact same message over and over again. You can heal yourself. You're one of us.
Hmm.
You can heal yourself. You're one of us. And I thought, well, this is something that I really need to put out into the world,
Hmm.
because there are a multitude of pathways to healing and wholeness and light. And the reason that I did the introduction to the show the way that I did, and titled it "It's Nothing Personal," is because it's nothing personal. This is most likely a manifestation of my own making, what was toxic in me trying to find its way out. At least I'm going to make that a presumption now that I'm as responsible as anything else. But I'm working on that healing aspect to focus on hope and optimism and joy, and let go of everything that has been in me for years, of toxic feelings that we don't even need to go into the reason why tonight. It doesn't matter. They were there, and this manifestation occurred. And so tonight, I ask everyone who sees this to join me.
Mm-hmm.
I never ask anyone for help. I've always been a fiercely independent, resilient, resourceful woman. I never reach out to anybody else. I'm the first one to reach out if they need something, but I never ask for myself. And I am now breaking that rule like a piece of glass shattering into a million pieces, breaking that rule, because I need you all and I love you all. And if you are watching this show tonight, let me help you. Let me lift you up. with feelings of positive, pure, power-driven love. It is our superpower. Jeff, you and I have talked about this a multitude of times, and I do believe when we gather together, when we tap into the collective consciousness, when we tap into source energy, I don't feel targeted by the universe. In fact, I don't perceive this to be a curse at all. I perceive this to be a blessing because it woke me up to what I was doing to myself and how much I had damaged myself psychologically, holding on to things that I needed to let go of long ago. So we're in soul school, and here's the deal. I intend and am actively working to expel this beast out of my classroom. And I have, as of day one, I already have a mantra. Feel free to say it with me for anything that it applies to in your life. This is it. Oh, there will be swearing. Get the fuck out of my big, fat, fluffy temple now. Get out.
Yeah.
When I have a negative spirit come around me, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out now. And it is gone. And this is no different. What is happening to my body is no different, because if we live in the physical world, but the metaphysical world is all intermingled with it, and all the dimensions overlap into each other, and spirit surrounds us. I mean, this house was so crowded the day that my mother passed away that my niece's friend, who is a medium, a reluctant one, she doesn't like to talk about it, but she walked right into the house with my niece and she started bawling. And she's like, I can't stay in this house. It's too crowded. I mean, not only is it too many, mortals, but the spirits that were here to receive my mother. And as she described them, I'm thinking, okay, that's Uncle John. That's Frankie. That's Grandma. That's Grandpa. That's April. I mean, people that she never met, that were long dead before she was ever born. And she described every one of them, and then went and sat in her car and cried because it so overwhelmed her. Well, imagine living in that environment for the last 2 years that we have been caring for Mom. And, constantly having that sensation, constantly having Mom say, calling me and saying, Mama, Mama, and thinking that I was her mother because her mother was standing in the room. So my mother was not afraid to die. I am not afraid to die. I have not had one moment of fear around this. Not a moment. I am instead completely, utterly, totally defiant. Get out. I am defiant and I am strong. And I told my doctor today, you throw everything you've got at me. I don't care what it is. If I'm going to be targeted, it's going to be with chemotherapy. The universe didn't do this to me. So the question that most people say is, oh, why me? Why not me? Why not me? Is this not a perfect opportunity for me to reach out to others and help them in any conceivable way that I can? Is this not an opportunity for us to come together as a collective? I'm with my tribe. I feel that vibration. And it is time to circle the wagons, my darlings. If you care to participate in my healing, you have my gratitude forever. I intend to survive this, and maybe against all odds, but I don't consider it a brush with death. I consider it a brush with life. So, light workers, unite. Light workers, unite. Join me in my crusade to illuminate the world to the many paths of healing, to the many paths of healing. Now, before I give you a chance to, before I take a breath, I have to tell you, the day I got the diagnosis, and it was a preliminary diagnosis, it was stage 2, preliminary. Found out later, spread all through me, stage 4, yada, yada. But that day, as I was doing all the paperwork and everything at the hospital, we found out that there was a glitch in my Medicare because I'm like old, I'm Medicare old. And so we had to go to the Social Security office. Now, you think you've had the worst day of your life with your oncologist until you find out that you have to go to the Social Security office on the way home. And so we went in and we got our little number and we sat and we waited and we waited and we waited. And there had been a mix up in my address because, Florida, Georgia, thing. Hi, Peanut. It's okay. It's just raining a little and it's fine, honey. Don't be scared. And so we're sitting in a cubicle talking to a woman through a pane of glass. And she's being very helpful in helping me fill out some forms, and I'm passing things to her. And we were explaining what had happened. And it was because of me being up here with my mother and me thinking that this was taken care of, and it wasn't being taken care of because it had the wrong address on it. And as we're talking to her about our mother, both of us spontaneously erupted into tears. And she put her hand through the little slot so that we could touch fingers to comfort us. And then all of a sudden, standing behind us is a beanpole of a young man, an absolutely radiantly beautiful, thin as a rail, lovely African-American boy who couldn't have been more than 14 or 15 years old. And he had been sitting in the next cubicle with his mother, and there's a partition, so he couldn't see us, we couldn't see them, but he heard us. And he stood up and he came around the cubicle and he reached in and he hugged and kissed us and told us how very, very sorry he was for our profound loss. And I couldn't believe it. I grabbed a hold of his hand and I said, "You were born to help save the world. You are a light traveling in this world among us. God bless you. God bless you." And he just held onto my hand, and then he leaned over and he kissed me on the top of the head. And Christine's looking at me like this is not even happening. Like, are people really, really this good? And you have to watch for these little miracles, because he lifted me up from a place that was so dark and so sad. And he cared enough to take the risk of having 2 middle-aged women say, "Go away, kid, you bother me. Get off my lawn," I mean, he took that risk that we would be receptive and accept his love, his genuine caring for our loss. And I'll tell you what, I've never been so happy to go to the Social Security office in my entire lifetime. Not only did the nice lady on the other side of the glass take care of everything in about 15 minutes, but I got to meet an angel. I got to meet an angel. And there are so many, Jeff, the people that have reached out to me, that from one friend to another have learned that I was having a health crisis, have reached out to me without even knowing what it was, but just thinking, maybe I need to reach out to Annie. Maybe it'll be okay if I reach out to Annie. And I'm talking about a handful of people, but by sharing this tonight, we'll never know how many people this reaches. And for those among you out there, if you are suffering in any way, in any way, know that you are loved, know that you are appreciated, and let us lift you up as you lift me during this difficult time. I am grateful. I am grateful beyond measure. Jeff.
Yeah. Well, there's so much I want to say. First of all, I just want to say what an inspiration you are to not only myself, but to all of us. Like, I mean, I talked to you the day that you got your initial diagnosis when
Yes.
things weren't yet all that clear and all the
Right.
details weren't known, but the basics were kind of out there. And I called you not exactly knowing what the conversational temperature would be. You know, I wasn't sure how you'd be feeling, but I knew I wanted to talk to you. And I found myself at a loss for words, kind of not sure what to say. You know, you don't always know what to say in a situation like that. And by the time we hung up, you had essentially preached a sermon to me that had me all but running the aisles and whipping my hanky and shouting hallelujah. I got off the phone with you and I was like, holy crap. Like, I mean, your energy came to the phone and just invigorated me like it's doing tonight. And you know, and there's the combined energy of the strength that you're exuding and the combined energy of the people who are standing with you tonight watching. I don't usually have the comment scrolling on the side because I'm trying to just focus, but
Yes.
I just felt to watch them a little bit tonight, and the amount of people that are here offering support. There's I feel like a palpable energy coming, just, you know, and I don't often make claims like that, but I genuinely feel like the combination of the love and energy of people watching and sending you that tonight, like genuinely. And you know, that's, if God is anything, that's what God is. It's the coming together of numerous individuals in love and aiming that love at an object or at a thing. That's, to me, if God is anything, if you can define it, it's that. And I had a dream about you that I know I shared with you.
You did. And you can share it with,
Okay.
I have nothing to hide. I am not,
Yeah.
I'm not holding anything back
Yeah.
here. I mean, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna speak your truth, speak your whole damn truth.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And this was maybe a month ago, maybe not quite a month ago. I don't know. My sense of time is a little whatever at the moment, but
Skewed. Yeah, mine too.
yeah. But I had a dream, and you were caring for something very intently, but you were also very upset and you were crying. And my family, like in the dream, my individual family came around you, and we were kind of praying for you and kind of administering like healing in some way to you. And I took the thing from you that you were caring for and put it to bed, basically. And then you kind of rested and relaxed. And we were just there, like kind of praying over you and sending energy to you. And then I started to see in the background just shadowy figures just appear, not in a negative sense, shadowy figures,
Yeah.
but just figures that were in the shadows, just in the thousands, all of a sudden begin to manifest and materialize behind you. And it was like all of us were doing the same thing. And I'm feeling like the manifestation of that tonight, and seeing the manifestation of it through the individuals who are watching and responding the way that they're responding. Like, there are so many more with you than are against you. And as you said, there's not anything that's against you. It's not personal. We live in a universe where chaos is almost just the way things are, right?
Yeah.
The universe is chaotic.
It's all fluxed up.
Yeah, the bits of minerals,
myself.
the dust and minerals banging into each other in the Crab Nebula aren't complaining about the fact that they just got smashed into. We just happen to have grown consciousness, and so when we get smashed into, we do take it personally. But when we take it personally, we can also develop resentment and anger and bitterness, and when we hold on to those things, it destroys. But in this moment that you're responding the way that you're responding, and the archetype that you're stepping into, I think, is that of the wounded healer. You know, Jung talked about the wounded healer, and he said that only the wounded physician, because he never used the term wounded healer specifically, but only the wounded physician can heal, and to the extent that he or she has healed themselves. And when I got off the phone with you that day, I knew that that's what you were stepping into.
Yes.
That archetype of the wounded healer, of one who is carried.
I live in that archetype.
Yes.
I have for as long as I can recall, feeling so universally connected. I have always tried to be the savior, the healer, the hopeful one, the optimist, the one that lifts up those whose hearts are full of woe. My whole life. It doesn't have anything to do about books or a movie or anything. It's just who I am. It's my essence. And so I'm very comfortable in this role. The first thing I did, Jeff, was say, how can I turn this into something really positive? How can I help others with this? I mean, it was the first thing, you were the first one that I had the conversation with about, you and Deb DeRoos. It was, I can't bear the thought of someone suffering in silence. I can't. And if I can turn my pain into promise and purpose, then why would I take any other path to my healing? And I said, there's a multitude of paths. I intend to walk them all. All, whatever it takes. I am a formidable adversary. I told the doctor, throw it all at me. No matter what you throw at me, I'm strong enough to take it. No matter what it is, I'm strong enough to take it. And she's like, and I said, I will come out on the other side of this. And she said, I believe you, Andrea. Well, those are powerful words. I believe you are powerful words.
Yeah, they are.
And I meant what I said. And when I walked out of that appointment and I walked into the lobby, Chris had to make a pit stop at the bathroom because, coffee, it's the law. And I walked into the lobby, and out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of songs that could have been playing on their loop as they welcome patients in and out of the hospital, the one song that was playing was The Fifth Dimension, The Age of Aquarius. I was like, fuck yeah. Oh my God. And then I walk outside and the ballet guy, who is adorable and full of light and just a beautiful, beautiful man, so lovely young man. And I walked over to him and I took his hand, and we'd already bonded. Don't ask me. My sister's like, that's just how she is. It's just how she is. She's going to hug you. She's going to kiss you because you parked our car. And I walked out and I looked up into the sky, and it was crystal blue, completely clear, not a cloud in the sky. And it looked like there was sparklers exploding in the sky. And he walked over to me and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's my galactic family. They are all around us all the time." And I could hear him getting choked up. And he said, "I always believed, but I've never seen them before." And I just held on to him, and he buried his head in my neck. And we just stood there and we looked up in the sky as bright flashes and pops of crystalline white light filled the sky over the hospital. What do I have to be afraid of? And the words I left him with: look up, always look up. There are your answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you see what I'm saying? It's expect a freaking miracle. Expect it.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll drink coffee from the Suck It Up Buttercup collection.
Andrea,
cups.
You can cut me off anytime. I will only thank you for it, believe me.
No, but you were making a wonderful point, and I know because you're so brilliant, you'll pick up right where you left off. So
Well, no, and but the concept and the archetype that you embody is that of the wounded healer. It's the one who's wounded but is not destroyed by the wound, right?
Right.
There's the mythological centaur, the Chiron, that is wounded by the arrow that's poisoned with the with the blood of a hydra, and so he carries that open wound because he can't die, but he carries an open wound for all of his existence, all whilst practicing healing. And his whole life is a mythological. It's an archetype of that one who lives with a wound, but refuses to give in to the wound and instead administers healing. Obviously, there's the Asclepius archetype. There's the Christ archetype, who doesn't incur a wound accidentally, but actually in some ways welcomes it because he knows to take the wound and to recycle it is to send healing, to receive the wound and then refuse to send it back out into the world as a wound, but to take it, and instead of responding in kind, respond in kindness. You transmute sin, as it were, into life. You transmute death into resurrection. And those are all archetypes of the wounded healer. And the thing that they have in common is, oddly enough, as you said, sort of an Aquarian connection. The age of Pisces is obviously the two fish. The age of Aquarius is that of the water bearer, who is sort of an androgynous figure. And one of the ways in which it's androgynous is that traditionally water carrier is a feminine role in the ancient world in antiquity, and yet it's a man carrying water, and the androgyny is sort of hidden in that symbol, that it's someone doing a role that is not traditionally theirs. And so there's a uniting of opposites, where the Piscean age is kind of opposing forces in a way. This is the coming together of opposing forces. And the coming together of opposing forces is something like, it's the wound, it's unhealth meeting health. Yes. And what happens? And this is where in the Gurdjieffian work, if you're familiar with the work, if the listeners are familiar with the work of G.I. Gurdjieff, there's something that's called the law of three.
Yes.
And I think the law of three is absolutely something that is connected to so many of the paranormal phenomenon and goings on that have been manifesting over the last couple of decades, really half a decade, that this law is kind of one of the things that's being pushed to the surface and being drawn out of the unconscious.
Yes.
And the law of three says this, that before any new arising, before the emergence of anything new, there has to be three forces at play. There's always two forces. And the two forces are an affirming force and a denying force.
An opposing force, yes.
Yep. So you have the affirming, you have the opposing, affirming, denying. And if those things just come together, they either undo each other or you go no further. You just go back and forth. The application of third force is something that takes these two, and it reconciles them, but in reconciling them, it doesn't just make them friends. It turns them into something completely different. Like 3 strands of hair, or 3 strands, are required to make a braid. And once those 3 strands come together, you no longer refer to them as 3 strands. You refer to them as a braid. It's something different now. It isn't just 3 individual strands. It's now a braid. It's something different. Something new emerged by the coming together of opposing, affirming, reconciliatory. They come together and something new emerges. And so whenever we're in an age where there is a new emergence about to emerge, whenever there's something new about to arise, there will be those forces, right? And then you have to apply the third force, the unwillingness to give into resentment, the unwillingness to say something like, why me? We're all allowed those moments. We're allowed the brief moment of woe is me. That's human. But the refusal to live in that, and the willingness to say, it's nothing personal. If I'm the one who bears this, I'm the one who bears this. I forgive, I bless. How can I take this wound?
Yeah, and I must be strong enough to carry the burden.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't have come upon me.
No, I agree 100%. Nothing comes on us that we don't have the ability to bear. If we didn't, it's a law. If you don't have the ability to bear it, it won't come upon you, And And so that willingness to take a wound and turn it into a womb out of which something new emerges and comes forth, that's the application of third force. That's taking two things that would otherwise just oppose and undo and say, no, we're going to Age of Aquarius this. I was going to swear, but we're going to Age of Aquarius this thing
all the time.
Yeah,
very therapeutic.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're going to Age of Aquarius this bitch. We'll say it that way, and and something new emerges, right?
Yeah.
And something completely new emerges, and there have been rumblings within the paranormal community, within other spiritual. There's something old that has to be shed. Our old way of doing things, the infighting,
old way of thinking,
way of thinking, the us versus them. That, you know, I thought that was only in the church. You know, those who maybe don't know me, I was a pastor for 12 years. I've been in that world all my life, and you know, I saw it in the church heavily, right? But then I was like, oh, you know, it's only there. And then I come into other communities, even the paranormal community, and I see the same thing. I see UFO people and Bigfoot people fighting, and ghost people fighting UFO people. And I'm like, what are we just fighting over denominations and whether you sprinkle the baby or whether you baptize the adult? Because it seems like the same thing, you know? But we're like,
a great analogy.
But it's like,
sprinkle the baby.
But you have these forces. It's never going to work like this. And so there's something new. And in some way, you're embodying in this moment the manifestation of what that is.
Yes.
And it's the joining together of what are opposites to us, right? Through the application of third force, which is love, which is forgiveness,
yes,
which is inclusivity and not exclusivity, compassion, empathy,
yes,
and bringing these things together and not just making some kind of hybrid, but something completely new that didn't exist before.
This is the paradigm shift.
Yes.
I always knew it would be 2024.
You've said that. You were saying that all year to me. Yep.
I know. I mean, since I was a child, I always knew. And, you know, for those of you who I've had the pleasure to hold in my arms, those of you who are in our chat room or watching this from wherever in the world, who I might not have even met yet, I love you. I love you because you exist. I love you because you gravitated to this message, that it speaks to you, that there's something blessed and beautiful and kind and good in the world. And this is our safe place in cyberspace. You know, I was thinking about our mutual friend, Christine Carpenter, and how we chose the bowls, the crystal bowls that she plays, which is the opening and our closing music for the show, and how soothing and how healing those vibrations, that sound is. And I'm so grateful to her, you know, just out of the goodness of her heart. She's like, oh yeah, I'll record some for you and I'll send it to your producer. I'm like, yay, you know, and oh, got a bug. Sorry, I don't mean to kill you, buddy, but you're, you know, get out of my eye. You know, there's part of me that feels at a loss because my doctor is right. I should not go anywhere except house, hospital, hospital, house. No place else, because I cannot afford to go and do these events that I dared earlier this year to tentatively book, so that I could see you and go and, you know, be at UFO contact with you, that I could go to the last Upper Peninsula, Michigan Paracon, which I love beyond words. What an incredible event. I mean, a freaking love fest, you know, and contact is on a little bit smaller scale, but still the same thing. I mean, a love fest. And I'm thinking, oh, I need to go. Oh my God, I need to be touched by these people and healed and loved and, you know, share that and commune with them. And I can't compromise my immune system. I can't take the chance. There are lots of viruses floating around and they hide, and they're unscrupulous and they're opportunistic, just like cancer. and I can't get sick while I go through this treatment. So I have to stay home. Fortunately, I have this. And I have already made arrangements with, I think, all but one promoter to go to these events through cyberspace, do just what we're doing now and be able to talk to people and speak to the crowd and see them and they see me. And that exchange that you found so palpable on the phone when I got back from the hospital the first day, we can regenerate that.
Yeah.
We can recreate that. No, because what we all understand is that there is no distinction drawn between our physical and our metaphysical realms, because everything is one thing.
Yeah.
And so all we have to do is manipulate the frequency, the vibration, the energy, and just work with what we've got, which is this.
Yeah.
And this is miraculous. And I feel you through a computer screen. I feel you. I feel our viewers. I feel uplifted and illuminated and enlightened and blessed. I feel sacred source energy with what we are doing here tonight. And I am grateful beyond measure. I do not suffer any hubris around this. Peanut, do you want to come up? Do you want to come see Uncle Jeff? Do you want to? It's raining. She's scared. Do you want to? Do you want to come up? Come here, baby. Come here. Hold up. I got to get the doggy. I know, because it's raining. And, you know, the only time I cried in the doctor's office, the only time was when I was telling her about Peanut Buttercup. And I said, you know, she's my baby. She's only 5 years old, 5.5 years old. And I can't go anywhere. She needs me. I saved her. That's a bond. You know, in India, in Indian religion, if you save somebody's life, you're responsible for them for the rest of their lives. I believe it's part of Hinduism. I might be wrong. It might be Taoism. I'm not sure. I should. I mean, I did get a degree in philosophy. I ought to know this off the top of my head. But, you know, the whole premise is that when you save someone, you are then responsible for their lives for the rest of their lives, which I think is a beautiful thing, not a burden at all. I know you're shaking like a leaf, honey, because you hear the rains, and there's not even any thunder or anything yet. Nothing. Here, you just sit right here. Uncle Jeff will watch over you. Okay, there you go. You know, and really the only time that I teared up in her office was, oh, and there's the thunder. And now I know why this is happening.
I heard that. I thought it was thought it was in the room that I'm in. I was like, what is going on?
No, of course, you know, I mean, we've been going through the drought from hell. And tonight, when I'm doing my first show in 2 or 3 months, of course we have a thunderstorm. Of course we do. But it's, you know, it's just the earth. It's just God bowling. It's the angels bowling, honey. It's fine. It's okay. My mother used to tell us that when we were little kids.
I did too.
The angels are bowling. You know, I'm surrounded by angels, and you are one of them. You are one of them. I mean, most of the people who have been here for me from the inception of this, I didn't even know them 10 years ago. My life, by daring to speak the truth of the life that I had lived at the farm, the life that I grew up knowing about our galactic family, knowing about spirit. When I found the courage to tell that story in full, my life was flooded with the most beautiful, extraordinary, exceptional souls that I could ever hope to know, and who love me as much as I love them. How gifted have I been. And it is a testament to speaking one's truth. It is, because the power of truth and the power of love is insurmountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they hold hands, when they embrace, the strength is incalculable. You know, you did I guess it was a few months ago, right? Just spontaneously, we paused our show for you to do a healing meditation. And if you feel called to do that tonight, I would love for you to do that, because it won't just help me.
Mm-hmm.
It will help everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else. I know that there are people that are watching this show right now that are, came with Kleenex, came to this show with Kleenex, knew before it even started that this would touch them in a way that would bring tears to their eyes. I want that to be tears of joy. Don't be sad for me. Don't be sad for my mother. My mother is free. My mother is at peace. And soon we will do a show just about mom, and not about the ghosts, and not about this, and not about my mother's life. My mother, who said to me just before she passed something that was so significant, I could write an entire book about it. And she said to me, I was born into a world at war, and I am dying in a world at war, and no one has learned a goddamn thing. There it is. Now, when do we make the shift? When do we make the shift? When it stops being about destruction and it begins being about nurturing and wholeness and wellness and purity and light and enlightenment and evolution of the human consciousness, so that we stop destroying everything we touch, including the living organism upon which we dwell. When do we make that shift? Let this moment be part of that shift. Yeah. But, if there are many paths, there are many paths to wholeness and healing. And Rupert does beautiful healing meditations for world peace. And your meditations are equally touching, even on, for me, a more profound personal level. Because I think that we are, each and every one of us, impacted by the reality in which we live. And, if you don't believe that we live in a duality in 3D, with the conflict between good and evil being perpetual, turn the news on. Just turn the news on. You might want to turn it off about 30 seconds later, because everything you suspected will be confirmed in 30 seconds.
I honestly think that there is something, pardon my scratchy throat. I've said this before, politically, I lean in a particular direction.
Yeah. I try to hold you up but I'm leaning. We're both going to fall over together, but we don't even have to go there tonight.
No.
The world that I want to do is alienate anyone.
Not in the least.
What I want to do is, bring everyone together.
Right.
And that's a part of the healing, is that we have to get past this chaos.
Yeah.
We have to get past this conflict. We have to.
And I think that's part of what's happening, because on all sides of the discussion, what I find, except for the extreme fringes, right? And there's always room for the extreme fringes. You put gargoyles on the edge of a cathedral. but you don't put them in the center. Everyone would know there was something odd if you saw a gargoyle on the altar. They'd be like, I don't know, it just seems off. But they're perfectly fine in the corners of the cathedral, because the cathedral is meant to represent the cosmic structure, that everything belongs. It's a microcosm of the macrocosm. So those things belong. The fringes have their place, but you keep them fringe. And I think what's happening is we're all kind of being forced into a place where we're all seeing each other as the absolute fringe, when in truth we're humans, right? But we're all being forced to take the position of fringe in some way in the name of fighting what we perceive to be the fringe on the other side. But the truth is, just like the young man that you encountered at the wherever it was you said you were,
security office.
In that moment, you were just a human. Nobody knew anything about one another except that you were human beings experiencing pain. And that's the element that we've lost. We've created these boxes and these bins, and we put an animal on it and a color on it, and then we imbue that box with all of these other qualities that may or may not actually describe those we throw in that box. But then we take people in this binary system and we're like, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. Oh, and if you're this, it means you're this. And it's like, no, most people aren't that. Most people are just humans. And so I think in a way, the exact
give these up. We have to give up labeling each other. We have to give these up.
Yes, we do. Because most people just aren't that. And I think the exacerbation of that especially over the last decade, people are exhausted with it.
Exhausted.
Because all we've had is the binary system. And what I was talking about before, the law of three. The law of three is what's called the ternary system, not like my name ternary, but like yes, exactly. But it's a whole different system. And I'm not talking about third party politics. That's not the point I'm making either. It's about a whole nother way of engaging with other people as human beings, where it's like, get out of these boxes. Get out of this mode of thinking and looking at things like this. You somehow erase the borders of your being and you melt into everyone else. And you're exactly like everyone else. We're all part of the universe and we're all part of one another. And if we destroy one person, we destroy ourselves. That's just simply the way that it works, right? And that's why in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, like from a mystical interpretation, he was persecuting Christians at the time, and he has an encounter with Christ, who says, "Hey, why are you persecuting me?" And so the revelation he experienced was that it wasn't that he was persecuting anyone in the name of God. He was persecuting the very God who is the fabric of being itself. And in his persecuting of the one he saw as being other, he was actually tearing at the very fabric of reality itself. And the voice says to him, you can't do that. You can't kick against the goads and make it. And so there was he was knocked on his butt off of his horse, blinded until he could see properly. And I kind of feel like that's where we're at right now. We've exacerbated things so much, and we're at such extremes that the shift is almost being forced, right? Because we're at that point where we either destroy ourselves, or there's a new emergence. And
look how many volcanoes are exploding around this world.
Oh yeah, the natural phenomenon is testifying to it as well, everywhere.
It's like, oh my God, okay, if it's not Iceland, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's Etna, it's Hawaii, it's the Ring of Fire, it's Alaska, Mount St. Helens is rumbling again. You know, something's happening.
Yeah.
You know, the polarization of the planet and our polarization are interacting and creating upheaval. And it's up to us to do, each and every one of us, our part to quell it and to live in divine mind. Whatever else you want to call it anything you want to call it. But source, the creator, the great spirit, God, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, all of the icons, all of the figures. I do this whenever I travel anywhere with anybody, or I'm sending somebody off. I have this prayer that I do. And I don't pray like other people pray. I don't think of prayer as, it's more like spiritual mind treatment. It's like just projecting ideas out into the world and keep it light and keep it love. And so this is my prayer as someone is getting into the car and they're leaving, and hugs and kisses, and put my hands on the car, put the car in the bubble. Oh, great Spirit, dear God, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, all the saints, all the sinners, all the incorruptibles, all the angels, all the demons, all the, I don't believe in demons, all the galactic family, everyone, get your ass in the car. We're going for a ride. It's nice. They don't take up a lot of space because they're invisible.
True.
And they don't have to stop and eat and pee every 15 minutes like a bunch of kids. And they create a protective capsule of energy that is born of love for the person I'm sending off.
Yeah.
That said, the person who, excuse me, it's that lung cancer shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not, I can't even blame it on allergies yet. It's not even allergy season yet. It's just this. It's going away.
It is.
All of those of you who mourned my mother with me, thank you. All of those of you who know and love my father, pray for my father. This has been very hard for him. I am, yeah, did you see the lightning in the back window onto the back deck? Okay, yeah.
That made me jump to the speakers on my MacBook. Yeah.
If it's Georgia, these are the storms we have. If for any reason we lose our internet, I'll just tell you goodbye. I know, Bill, I know. And you can carry the rest of the show. God knows you can. But if we lose our internet, because, you know, it's Spectrum, it's like, you know, buying a Ford, fix or repair daily, find on road dead. You know, I mean, it's just the same thing. It's like, boom, gone. So in case that happens, I thank you all. But if you, anybody out there that knows Dad, Papa Perrin, pray for my dad, because this is so hard for him. And this is a really good time for me to tell you, because I don't think that I did yet. Maybe I did. You and a handful of others before, you know, between when I got the news and had to get ready to do the show. All the biopsies, all the tests, all the everything. We got the last biopsy back today. The big concern was that the tumors in my lungs didn't match the tumor in my breast or in my neck or in my lymph nodes, or that this was going to get very complicated. And I got a call from the hospital this afternoon, and I was told that it's an identical match. And so they can hit me with everything all at once that will attack all of the cancer at once, everywhere in my body, in my adrenal glands. And it's not in any of my major organs. We found that out. My wounds from biopsies are completely healed. I am whole and pure and perfect in this healing, in this moment. I stand with all that is beautiful and great. I've got a particularly close, for any of you out there, I'm like really kind of particularly drawn to and tight with the Blessed Mother. Always have been. Really fond of Mary Magdalene too. Really fond of Mary Magdalene. And of course, Jesus. And whatever source. You know, how many times have we done it? It's like, yes, absolutely, I believe in Jesus. I also believe that Jesus and God is an extraterrestrial race. I think that's entirely plausible. It doesn't mean that, that brilliant, beautiful power of love doesn't exist. It might just not be what we think of it or categorize it as or compartmentalize it as, or, but do I believe in God? Do I believe in source energy? Do I believe in divine creation? Abso-fucking-lutely I do. This didn't all just happen by accident.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. We are created in the image. And when I think of what we bring to Soul School, to this classroom, we are each a divine light. We are each a living, breathing embodiment of God consciousness, of Christ consciousness, of pure light and love. And that is our mission, to be here, to spread that light, to live in the light, but then spread the light, to be the beacon, to be the source, because each and every one of us is a living, breathing expression of that source. I believe, who was it? Meister Eckhart said that we are the way in which God sees its own creation.
Yeah. The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant and beautiful.
Yep.
And when we harm another, we harm ourselves. The only good that we can do is to spread that light and do no harm. Do no harm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the message.
Yeah.
That's my purpose. That's my reason for being. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. And I'm not some great oracle. I'm just Annie. I'm not some great oracle. I'm not some, great spiritual advisor. All I'm doing is saying the same thing Jesus said, with a different voice and a different body and maybe a little bit different mentality about it. But it's the same exact message. Yeah. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Do unto others as though you are the others, because to someone you are the others.
Yeah.
Be kind, be good, be pure. Like that beautiful young man who rounded the corner of a cubicle and didn't know either one of us, and wrapped his arms around us and kissed our hair and told us how sorry he was that we lost our mother. I will never forget that moment, Jeff. It touched me to my soul. It reaffirmed my hope and my belief in the goodness of humanity. Yeah. It brought me to my knees spiritually, that someone that young could be that much of an empath, could be so tuned in that the sound of the voice of two middle-aged women gave him the courage to get up out of his chair and come over to us. We weren't strangers.
Yeah.
There was no strangers involved. It was so loving and so kind. I will never, ever forget the light in his eyes. That's something worth living for.
Yeah.
And you've heard me say how many times, I hate this place. Oh my God, I want to be out of here. I don't belong here. I am not from here. I don't belong here. This is too hard. I'm so mad all the time. The world is upside down. I can't fix it. This is awful. And 6 months ago, I didn't care if I lived or died. I was so steeped in pain and grief and loss. And now it's all I care about. It's all I care about. I want to live. I want to live. And I want to spread light as far and wide as I can, and I might not be able to travel this year. I can't take the chance of compromising my immune system, but I intend to get to the other side of this. You have my word, so that I can see you next year and the year after that and the year after that. I have to live to honor my mother and to honor my father and my sisters, my beautiful, wonderful sisters who have been there for me right from the inception of this diagnosis. Not that they weren't there for me before, but I was easier to ignore. Oh, is she talking about her little friends again? They're not that little, okay? Bill would like to join us. Is that okay with you, sweetheart?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's the producer. He kind of can if he wants
You don't
to.
have a choice.
I'm not going to get all crazy emotional, but I got to share something. The power of prayer, the power of faith goes a long way.
It does.
Like Mom and I, we've been doing this for you, and I'm just going to bring it up. These are the candles we use, and I'm sure a lot of people out there do this as well. But I'm going to tell you a story about a candle in the past. In 1995, when my brother was dealing with anxiety, schizophrenia, all that, and he jumped off a roof 6 stories. This is tough for me. So they gave him 0% to live. We used to go to the grotto, and we would light a candle. And this is the candle that we burned at that grotto, but I must show you. And he lived as he was a vegetable, but he lived for 4.5 years. But I want to put this on full screen. These candles, and Jeff, and maybe you as well, Annie, are familiar with these type of candles. They usually just burn out.
Mm-hmm.
But this one came up with an image like that.
Oh my God, look at that.
I could cry right now, but I'm not. We've saved this candle. It now, pareidolia, but we see what looks like someone kneeling and praying.
Yes.
And like a bishop, like someone wearing in front of her.
Yes.
But these candles usually just burn out. They don't usually leave anything like that. So, and he survived. And that's something that we did. And this is the thing that was there with him. It was just like this, like we had this in front of and behind the candle. So the reason I mention this is because, yes, the power of prayer, the power of faith, the power of positiveness goes a long way. And these candles will continue to go in this house for as long as they need to.
Yeah.
Because we all love you, and you have to see all the incredible, loving, positive messages coming in on the chat.
I will go back and look at every one of them.
I told them
I wanted everybody to go onto YouTube, because then I can go back, and Lenny's doing screenshots of them for me. And, I've got Greta, I've got Erin, I've got everybody's trying to capture everything that they can of this experience.
So we're going to be there with you side by side in that trench with you and fight this, just like we're doing, like when we did the thing for Shaylee.
Yes.
That's what we do here. We're all a family, and we all support each other. We're all going to be with each other. No matter how long it takes, we're going to fight the battle with you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to share that with everyone. So I'm sorry. I was getting emotional, so I had to do it.
No, that's incredible.
I love you. You're a blessing in my life.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's easy to be cynical. It's easy to be cynical.
It is. It's a cop-out, really. Cynicism is a cop-out.
It is. And, some people think the cynics protect the naive, and okay, well, maybe. But, one of my favorite quotes is from Marie-Louise von Franz, one of the intellectual heiresses of Carl Jung, who said that it's one thing to be a naive idealist.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be a cynical realist.
Yeah.
It's another thing entirely to have no illusions left, but to still hold the inner flame. And there's something that happens when you pass through all three of those. And maybe it comes back even to that law of three thing, which is Trinity, which is perichoresis, which is things that don't seem to go together, going together to the point, vibrating at such a frequency that they become one thing. That it's one thing to be a naive idealist who, like I grew up in church and I grew up around prayer and I grew up, watching people called up to the front to get prayed for because they were sick and then not seeing it happen the way I was told it was going to happen. And then you become the cynical realist. Then you become the harsh materialist, which I did. I became an atheist for a season and judged those who believed passionately as maybe not them. I didn't judge them, but I judged those who I deemed as taking advantage of them. And maybe those who do take advantage, I suppose, do deserve that judgment. But you understand what I'm saying. And there's this deep cynicism that we can get caught up in. And we're like, like we have words for stuff to explain miracles, like pareidolia, as Bill mentioned, which is thinking you see something that's not really there, seeing a face in wood grain or whatever. But it's another thing entirely to pass through both of those phases and to do what David Bentley Hart calls wisdom, which is it's the recovery of innocence at the far end of experience, right?
Yes.
It's to hit that
It's
second
going in the back door of the garden.
Exactly. It's that Paul Ricoeur second naivete move. Yep. Of leaving, walking, circumnavigating the globe until you come to the back door that you didn't know was there, and then you come back into the garden and you see it from an angle you didn't see it from before. There's no going back to the front door, but now you found a new way in and you see
a different gate. It's a different entrance.
Exactly.
Entirely different perspective.
And you have to leave to get there, which means you have to leave. But then some stop halfway and camp out and just sit back and judge their past or judge those they deem less enlightened than themselves. And I get it. I work in communities of people that are very burnt out by religion. And one of the things I do is a lot of spiritual direction, trying to help people in those communities find something like what I call a sacred solidity in a world that's deconstructed. But man, to hold that inner flame on the other side of all of that, to have believed, had the crap kicked out of you by the ones who took advantage of your belief, but then to emerge from that still with a faith that's real and that's genuine, that's metal has been tested. Man, that's what it means to be alive. That's what it is to be truly human. To be truly human is to hold the inner flame on the other side of all of that. And so, like, man, when we pray, so that's, I'm trying to say, it's easy to be cynical about things like prayer, but prayer, whatever you want, however one practices it,
yes,
it works. It works. I was just talking to a friend of mine today who'd become an atheist and a bit strident in his atheism. No judgment, just it's where he's at, but was really mocking and pillorying people who pray still and believe in prayer, and how it only really helps the one who's praying to feel better, and it gives them an excuse to not actually help someone. And I'm like, dude, I appreciate you. I respect where you're coming from, but that is such a short-sighted view of what happens when we pray. Whether we're just looking at it from maybe like a New Thought metaphysics perspective, or maybe like an Orthodox Christian perspective, whatever way you're looking at it,
whatever way,
when you focus and you concentrate love on a person or on a specific outcome, and especially when you have a collective of people doing that, those projected intentions, let's just call it that to keep things ecumenical, those projected intentions, especially when they come with that intensity, they start to turn into something. They start to become dense. What on its own might just be like a grain of sand, if you throw enough, there starts to be a density, and it starts to grow, and it starts to become substantial. You know, we talked about thoughts become things. It's one of the terms we threw back.
The cosmic secrecy of seed.
Yes.
Planting a seed in the dark, dense, moist earth where it has no light, but it cracks open.
Yeah, that's right.
And springs to the light and goes to the surface and blooms into something magnificent that came from a tiny little seed. And new life is created. I mean, we live every day. We live in a constant state of miracle.
Mm.
Everything about this life is a miracle.
Yes.
Everything is. I mean, even the origins of life, the origins that, even what we don't understand, we don't have to understand it to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to understand to be grateful.
Yeah.
We don't.
Right.
All we need to do is commune with it, merge with it.
And you don't
be
have to put a
with
name on it. You don't have to label it anything specific.
No.
There's so much pressure in religious circles to name the thing.
Yep, name the thing. Give it a title.
Exactly.
Give it a name. Give it a chapter. Give it a verse.
Make a formula out of it. But
Yep.
and it's this way or it's that way. You cross this way. If you're Catholic, you cross that way. If you're Orthodox, it's the Blessed Mother or it's the Theotokos or whatever, depending on what tradition you come from. It's like, it's all the same light shining through a stained glass window. It's the stained glass window that makes it look distinct. But if you were to shatter the window, which I don't encourage anyone to do, you would see that it's one light manifesting itself in myriad ways because of the membrane it's passing through. We are the membrane that the light of the divine passes through, and so it gets projected in different ways. And here it looks like orthodoxy. Here it looks like New Age. Here it looks like shamanism.
Yeah.
Here it looks like this, that, or the other. It's the same light that's moving through us all, manifesting differently depending on what it's passing through. But at the end of the day, as long as love and inclusivity is what it's motivating us to do, it's the same light. It's the same God. And I have a name for it. I have a way that I approach it that I'm comfortable with. Maybe it's because it's my mother tongue and I'm fine with that. But you don't have to see it that way. And so even when we're talking about prayer can be as simple as using your imagination to visualize an outcome that is desirable for a person that is the best for them. Ernest Holmes, I want to say it's in, was it Prentice Mulford or Ernest Holmes? I think it was Ernest Holmes who said that real imagination, it's not mere daydreaming, it's fire from heaven. I love that
fire
quote.
From heaven.
That you can imagine an outcome for someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that is as powerful as prayer. You put that intention towards someone. We put that fire from heaven, as it were, towards what we're told are cancer cells. And we can see them dissolved collectively. Like that can happen. I've seen things like that happen. I've seen things fall off of people's bodies through prayer. Like I've seen it before my eyes. I've seen what we might call spirits leave people, and it might have come in a certain form because of the environment that I was in, but it doesn't matter. It can come in a numerous forms, right?
You sent this to me.
Yes.
I want to share it.
Okay, yeah.
Ernest Holmes. You are more than you appear to be. Life is greater than you have ever known it. The best is yet to come.
That's right.
That's a prayer.
Yes.
That's a prayer.
Yes.
That is also known by him as spiritual mind treatment.
Yep.
Thoughts are things.
Yep.
Manifest through your thought process.
Yep.
What you want your world to be, what you want your life to be, what you want. I think of when you were saying that, the fractal nature of light through a stained glass window.
Yeah.
I think of humanity as a kaleidoscope. A kaleidoscope. That single light illuminates all, like a glass tapestry.
And one little twist changes it all.
And one little twist changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through a season of life where I couldn't pray in any sort of traditional way.
I know.
And I just couldn't. And it wasn't because I was mad or because I was angry. It was just because I'm not tooting my own horn, but it was just, I can't lie to myself. I'm not a person who can lie to myself. And I was at a point where I couldn't believe in a certain way. So I didn't. So I was like, yeah, but after a while, I started to notice this deep, deep lack. Right. And so
avoid.
Yep. And so new thought metaphysics
filled.
Yes. By something. And that's when the whole concept of new thought, and which I know you're familiar with, new thought metaphysics and the work of individuals like Neville Goddard and William James and all these people.
Yeah. And all new thought is old thought recycled.
exactly, yeah, began to appeal to me. And I, for a long time, just did this simple prayer every morning. It comes from the French mind theorist Emile Coué.
I know. I mean, I
Yep.
know all the French
Yes,
ones.
belong to the
I
Nancy
do.
School of Hypnotism, right?
Yeah.
So, but I would pray this simple prayer every morning, day by day, in every way. I'm getting better and better. It's sing-songy. It sounds like something that would have no effect whatsoever. That's so silly, some people might think. But Coué encouraged you to make a rope, knot 21 knots on it, and almost pray that in a rosary-like fashion.
Yes.
Right. And he made it as neutral as possible because the words are day by day. So that's every day. You got it all covered in every way. That's also covering everything: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. I'm getting better and better.
Okay.
Well, you've covered it all, and he kept it as neutral as possible. And he encouraged people to keep it as neutral as possible. And he encouraged you to say that when you're in that hypnagogic or hypnopompic state, which is either between sleep and wakefulness, or
Yes.
wakefulness and sleep. And because when you're in that space, you're kind of open. The world,
Yes.
yeah, you can access
When
things
you're
in
most
space.
susceptible,
Yeah,
you can be between third and fourth dimension,
yeah,
even fifth dimension, all
right.
simultaneously, and experience all of it
Yeah,
in a profound realization of oneness.
yeah. And that simple non-theistic prayer, if you will, transformed my life and opened me up back to the world of spirit when I had completely lost the belief that such a world existed. Whereas before, I was the pew hopping hellfire and brimstone preacher that you would have never thought would have gotten to that point. But I got to that point, right? Because you follow things to their logical conclusions, and you find out sometimes things don't work, and you're meant to find out certain things don't work so you can find out what does work. And so for me, it was like I got to a point where I couldn't address anything by name, or I couldn't do anything in any kind of formulaic way, but there was something I could do, and I did it, and the doors flung back open, and the floodwaters of spirit came rushing back in, and my life was transformed. But I just say all that to say, I don't know why I felt to go on that little tangent, but just to tell people who are listening, when we're talking about prayer and you're like, oh, I can't do that, or you think it's this, or you think it's that, or you think it's the other, it can be as simple as some non-theistic words like day by day in every way I'm getting better and better, or imagining the absolute best for someone. One of the practices that I still do, even though I do identify more with mystical Christianity at this point, but I still practice this almost every night before I go to bed, is I imagine whatever problem it is I have in my life that I'm trying to solve, whatever it might be, whatever quandary there is. It's like, I need to learn, even if it's as simple as I need to learn to budget better, or I feel sick and I feel like there's something not right, whatever it is, some area that I feel needs fixing. I will visualize that as densely as I can visualize it. And I will see it for all that it is. I'll see it askew. I'll see it exactly as I'm experiencing it in that moment. And then I'll call all the help that I have at my disposal, whether it's angels, saints, whatever you want to imagine these things being. I imagine them all coming together around this. And then I imagine the logos, which to me is the ordering principle of the cosmos, spinning like a circle over top of all this chaos until I can't even tell. It's just a disc because it's moving at such a high frequency. And I see it pulling all these pieces together. And I fall asleep in the belief that something beyond me, whether it is beyond me or it's my own subconscious, is at work putting those pieces together. And I sleep believing it happens. And then I wake up and I wait for the intuitions to come to me that were crafted in my sleep. And damn it if it doesn't work,
It
And it's
does.
like, that is not really even that's not a theistic way of praying per se. But I just say this to say, look, I've been through the ringer in terms of faith. I was a fundamentalist Christian. I became a fundamentalist atheist. And now I'm something of a perennialist mystical Christian who leans in one particular direction. But I've got, my main house is in Christianity, but I've got cabins all over, right? So, but like, you don't have to limit it to one thing. You can connect with this source that I call Christ, that we call God, that we call divine mind, whatever, in a myriad of ways. And don't feel limited in that. Experiment, try it out. If you feel burnt out on it, try something else. As long as it's pushing you towards love, light, inclusivity, and wholeness rather than being fractured and fragmented,
Right.
We're all talking about the same thing. It just
We
felt
are.
like saying that. Yep.
And when I was in the doctor's office the other day, I looked up and turned out that the nurse had the exact same plaque in her office that I have in mine. And it says, "Let your faith overpower your fear."
Mm.
Or be stronger than your fear. I'm not sure which way it goes, but the message is the same. And I was sitting there and I'm thinking, and they're sucking more blood out of me like freaking vampires. I'm like, how much, are you going to leave me some to live with? Because like you people have taken how many vials of blood from me? They can't find anything wrong with my blood.
Mm.
I can't bear to tell them that it's because I'm not from here. They just might not understand. And so I'm just going to let them figure it out. But I was sitting there and I was thinking, what's wrong with me? Why am I not having maybe the expected, the natural reaction of fearing for my life? This is a situation and a scenario where anyone would receive this news and fear death, fear for their loss of their life. And I have not felt that at all, not for a moment. And I think that part of it is because I know I don't have to die, that I get to decide with the powers that be, with my friends in high places.
Yes.
My creator, that I don't have to. It's not a foregone conclusion. I made a rational, pragmatic decision not to get on a plane, not to go among thousands of people where I could contract something that might compromise my immune system when I need it most. That's just called being smart.
Yeah.
But I'm not fearful. And I wondered, like, what part of me is disconnected from fear? Because I am, I said, a force to be reckoned with, a formidable adversary against anything that in any way threatens me or my loved ones. I mean, I'm just as bad as my father. He's like, don't mess with me or my own, and we'll be fine. Just leave my kids alone, leave me alone, we'll be fine. That's dead. And I guess I got part of that fearlessness because I don't live recklessly, but I do live fearlessly.
Yeah.
Because, I know we use a lot of great quotations on this show, but they're great and they bear repeating. And it was Winston Churchill during the Blitz of London. And he said, when you're going through hell, just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
And I am tenacious as a bulldog. And I have a peanut buttercup to live for, and a beautiful family, and a vast circle of people whom I adore. My real, true friends that, excuse me, are there for me. And in the most uplifting, life-affirming way. When someone like you, for instance, calls me out of the blue, and says, Annie, I'm here for you no matter what. Anything that you need, you just tell me. Promise me that if you need something, you will tell me, and I will take care of it. And I know that you mean it. And I've heard it over and over and over. And in the last 3 weeks of my life, when I should be like, I haven't been through enough. I have not been through enough that I have to deal with this now. I don't feel that at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Why not me? Why not me? This is nothing personal.
Mm.
This is about a blessing disguised as a curse. This is about enlightenment, illumination, understanding that everything is one thing. It is about the realization of oneness and the power of love and the power of prayer. Call it whatever you want. Call it meditation, call it spiritual mind treatment, call it whatever you want. Put a post-it note on it if you must, but it's all the same thing. It is a process. It is a recipe for life.
Yes.
You know, in Jurassic Park, when the funky scientist said, life finds a way.
Yeah.
Life finds a way.
That's
Jeff,
right.
you have no idea how many people have reached out to me and told me about miracles that they have witnessed among their own family. Things that should never, like Bill. Bill's brother should not have lived long enough for them to be able to say goodbye.
Yeah.
For them to be able to talk to him and express themselves. They had years to express their love and affection for him. As troubled as he was, he made his great escape. But he didn't go alone. And what a beautiful thing. What a testament to the power of love that we have for each other, that my mother left this world surrounded by the light and the love of her children and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. There was no room left on the bed. I am surprised it didn't collapse from the weight. And that's not even counting the spirits that were standing around her, ready to escort her home. Life is beautiful. Do I miss her? Oh, I talk to her constantly, but she is no longer frail and weak. She is mighty and so strong and right here with me. Cindy has seen her. I have not. Peanut has seen her in her recliner, which is right there over my shoulder. This 3 times this has happened now, where, well, Peanut kind of usurped the recliner even before Mom passed, because she didn't spend that much time out here the last few months. It was too difficult with her oxygen. So she would just, you know, either go sit on the porch in her wheelchair, or we would just visit her in her room and prop her up, and I would rub her feet and cream her legs and brush her hair and scratch her back and, you know, just care for her, just nurture her and love her and be tender with her. And then Peanut would go pop herself up in bed. And then as soon as we left the room, Peanut would come and go take that chair. And my mother has come 3 times. Speaking of 3. And Peanut suddenly, we call it her fainting sofa. This, you know, she does so dramatic. And she'll just suddenly hop up and come over and run over to the sofa and hop onto the back of the sofa and stare at the chair. And the little tail's going 100 miles an hour, and eyes are really big, and the ears are straight up, and it's her Grammy. And she sees her Grammy, and she knows Grammy's okay. I don't even turn around and look. I don't need to. I feel her. I feel her presence.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she goes, Peanut hops back down and goes back over to her chair. And it's like she wants to be close to her. She wants to feel her too. This is not wishful thinking. I know that spirit is real. I know we are not alone in the universe. I know that there is divine mind and creative source and energy and oneness and multiple dimensions functioning in an interlocked, perfectly gear-driven way throughout the course of the universe. I know it's all fluxed up. I know that chaos appears to be real, But I am telling you that I believe that everything happens for a reason. I see you, peanut butter. I just saw your little tail. I just saw it. Everything happens for a reason. This has happened for a reason.
Yep.
This has happened for a reason.
Yep.
And it is incumbent upon me to identify the reason, to project my light, to illuminate that reason, and then to share it far and wide with all who are willing to listen to the message. And the same message that I am getting from our galactic family is the same message that I impart to each and every one of you. You can heal yourself. You are one of us.
Yeah.
We are here. We are here. We are right on the verge of disclosure globally. We are discerning the significance of the interaction of life and death and afterlife. Great progress in our own human evolution is being made as we tap into a consciousness of light and love and hope and compassion and kindness. The easiest concepts. How hard is it to open a door for someone and smile at them and hold that door? You might have just saved a life. You might have just been kind to someone who had no hope left, who had no belief in humanity being anything worth remaining a part of. This has transformed me. I am being reborn. I am not dying. I am just learning how to live.
That's it. That's it. Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist, right?
Joseph Campbell.
It's a mini quote, but he said, if you feel like you're falling, dive.
Dive.
Because sometimes when you sense that there's another level coming and that you're being called higher,
yes,
but you don't go higher sometimes without going lower, because you have to dive down to
like a humpback to get the momentum up.
The momentum to go up.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, like, I learned this being in the room while my wife gave birth. We often said we had a baby. I didn't have a baby. My wife had a baby.
And you observed it. Yeah.
I observed it. But when the contractions kick in is when you push, you know, and it's the last thing you want to do when you're feeling contractions. But that's when your body is giving you the ability to get
and the
this
strength.
Exactly. And you can't do it on your own. And the contractions alone maybe could eventually do it, but it's the coming together of those forces that give rise to a new emergence. And so when you feel like you're falling, and you very well may be, just sometimes you have to embrace it. And you dive, and you go to steeper and deeper grades in terms of depth, but you're also going into deeper and steeper grades in terms of soul school. You're going down the grade, but you're actually going up. And you have to sometimes embrace the downward trajectory, knowing that it's actually the upward trajectory. And so, as you said, this is not death. This is being reborn. And I was mowing the lawn like 2 weeks ago, and I had this whole thing come to me to tell you exactly that. And I like texted it to you, I think the next day. It was like, you're being reborn. That's what's happening. You're being born.
Yes.
You know, and there's some people listening right now that's exactly, it might not be the same situation, but there's this phenomenon that sometimes when you're observing something happening in one person's life and you're in a similar situation, you can apply the spiritual truths being spoken to them that are bearing out in terms of synchronicities and signs, so we know it's true. You can take that same thing as a template and apply it to yourself.
Exactly.
And so you might feel like you're in a death spiral right now, but I just want to tell you, and I want to speak into your situation, that you're being born. The
Mhm.
downward trajectory is the upward trajectory. The descent is the ascent. It's one move, right? And if you could see it removed from time, it would just be one thing. But we live in time to keep us from experiencing everything at once. So we have to experience the descent in order to get to the ascent, but it's one move. And so I just want to speak into your situations right now, those of you who are even like watching and listening,
Yes.
that whatever it is, whether it's a marriage, whether it's financial, whether it's in your physical body, whether it's relationships with parents or siblings, whatever, a job situation where it feels like something
And
is
anxiety
dying.
and on and on and
Yes.
on and on.
Yes. If
We
it
are
feels
all
like
the
a death.
walking wounded.
Yep.
We
I
will,
just say you're being born. And I speak that your
yeah,
wound will become a womb out of which there is a new
yeah,
emergence. And I want you to hold on to that. And I
yeah.
want you to hold on to that in the days to come. And when you feel it more of a wound than a womb from which new life will come, just remember me saying this to you tonight. And remember, hold on to that.
Mhm.
Okay, that's that.
Well, and it's very akin to the metaphor, the analogy that I've used over and over again. We're all so anxious when we're young to, leap into life, to this river of life. And then what do? We start swimming against the current, and our lungs are on fire, and our shoulders feel like our arms have been torn off. And we're fighting and fighting and fighting against the current because we think what we want is up there.
Yeah.
Can't see it,
Yeah.
but we think we want that.
Mhm.
And I have always said, when you feel exhausted, when you feel like you are drowning, when you feel like you are being dragged under, flip over and float,
Yeah.
because the current will carry you home.
That's right.
The current will carry you to your destination. The journey is the destination. The destination is the journey. They are one and the same. And it's all part of the lesson. I mean, if there was ever, a validation of our premise of this broadcast that we do together with such love in our hearts, it is this: the test precedes the lesson.
Mhm.
I knew immediately when I was presented with the test, here you are. You have a diagnosis of stage 4 metastatic breast cancer that has spread through your body. And I was like, okay, what's the lesson?
Mm.
Not, oh my God, I'm scared to death. I don't want to die. I changed my mind. I changed my mind. No. What's the lesson? And how can I teach others to approach this as an epiphany, to approach this with grace and poise and delicacy and gratitude? Thank you. How many times have I said, don't relinquish your power? Don't relinquish your personal power to fear.
Yeah.
Embrace fear. Love it. Thank it for every time it saved you from making one stupid mistake after another. That's its purpose. That's its role. Embrace it and love it. And it has no power over you, because it can't harm someone who loves it well. That is the way to conquer your fear in life. And I realized, as I'm being told, that, this is your reality. This is how we're going to attack it. We need to get the rest of these tests in and look at everything on a spreadsheet and see if it all matches up, so we'll know. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, Christine's taking notes and taking notes and taking notes. And I'm just living in that moment of realization that when it comes to surgery, my surgeon will be a conduit for the universal power that will guide the scalpel that will lead me to restored health, to preserve my life, to buy me much more time on this beautiful, magnificent, incredible, organic being known as Earth, where I reside with billions of beautiful, beautiful souls. And how lucky am I? And how lucky am I, Jeff, to have you in my life? How lucky am I? The people that I have been in touch with, maybe a couple of dozen over the last couple of weeks, have lifted me to the extent, Carlene, my father's partner, lifted me up to the extent like I feel like I'm holding hands with her in heaven. I never felt that way. I love her. I love her like crazy. Not until I was faced with this challenge, with this obstacle to overcome, with this test to examine the lesson, did our bond come in such a way that we pray together telepathically. Okay, that never happened before. What are the chances that she is born of the same clan that my mother, she and my mother both come from Clan Buchanan in Scotland, both. What are the chances? Okay. There's no such thing as coincidence. It's all beautiful. It's all wonderful. And I cannot believe we just blew through 2 hours and Bill's telling me we have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I just saw the same thing. Nope.
So, fine. We will adhere to his, time's an illusion. You know that, right? But that said, I love you all. Thank you all for coming. And, we always end every show with class dismissed, but I am beginning to suspect that there is no end. There is no end. There is only a new beginning and a new life and a new day and a new promise. And so, at least for tonight, we'll close our little classroom door. You can leave apples on the desk if you want. I understand they're very healthy. And I love you with all my heart. Jeff Turner, you are a blessing unto the world. And we will do this again. And I will be back. And I will be healed. And I will be whole. And with that, good night, my dear friends. Class dismissed.
Peace.